Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, May 22nd, 2015. I am Dave Biddle, and I am thrilled to be joined by Stacy Elliott, Ezekiel Elliott's father, longtime guest of the show, even back when we had Front Row Radio, now Bucknuts Morning 5. And Mr. Elliott, thank you so much for your time. It's great to talk to you.
Oh, I'm very honored once again to be on the program. David, it's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Always a pleasure to speak with you too, sir. First thing, I get a lot of questions from fans right now, like, what are the guys doing? Are they getting enough rest? People say these poor guys played all the way till January 12th, and they turned around and had spring ball right after that. It seemed like, it was a couple of months later, but it felt like it was like 2 days later. Tell me what the guys are doing right now. I know Ezekiel did some fishing, caught a shark. Everybody got a kick out of that. But how much rest do the guys get? When does summer conditioning start? And as a former football player yourself, do you think these guys are getting enough rest?
Well, first and foremost, Coach Mickey Marotti is one of the best in the country when it comes to training athletes. And so everything Coach Marotti does is an exact science to make you a great athlete, a great football player. After the spring game, the players took off approximately about 9 days, give or take. And then when they came back, they were off for a few days. But they just started training this week.
Has it sunk in yet? I asked you the same question a few months ago when I had you on the show. But even since then, Stacy, things have happened. You guys going to the White House, Ezekiel meeting the president, and not just meeting the president along with his teammates, but the president singling him out, talking about the crop top, and Ezekiel saying, "Hey, you gotta get the rule changed." Everybody just thought that was hilarious, just that give and take. And what a cool moment, winning the Sullivan Award, giving to the top amateur athlete in the country. On top of everything that happened before that, of course, the Buckeyes winning the national title. Ezekiel is the MVP of both the Sugar Bowl and the national championship game. Has it sunk in for you and your family? Is it still surreal, or has it sunk in?
Dave, it's just still surreal. Our trip to New York, stayed in the New York Athletic Club, a very beautiful, nice place, and participating in the Sullivan Award and learning so much about the history of the Sullivan Award, how at one time the Sullivan Award was more prestigious than the Heisman. To see Ezekiel on stage with such great, accomplished athletes, gold medalists from the Olympics, it really, 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 really was surreal. And to be honest with you, David, I didn't think Ezekiel was going to win. And when he did win, I looked at Dawn, and she doesn't cry often, but she broke down, and to see the joy, tears of joy stroll down her face, and myself, I got very emotional too. And then to cap that off, when Ezekiel received the Sullivan Award and had to speak in front of all those persons present and then people watching around the country live, and to see how much he has grown as a young man, how he commanded he succinctly spoke words all in order. I was so impressed with him. I saw a young man who had grew a lot, and after that I texted or I tweeted at Coach Urban Meyer just to thank him for his leadership, for his example, and for what he's doing with Ezekiel into grooming him into a great young man.
Oh, it was so heartfelt. His speech at the Sullivan Awards ceremony was fantastic. I mean, he was so humble and he was so sincere. Sometimes you'll hear people at banquets and award ceremonies say things that just doesn't come across as sincere. When he said, I just can't even imagine what it's like to win an Olympic gold medal, and for me to even be up here is humbling. I mean, he stole the show, not just winning the award, but the way he handled things. And then, my goodness, getting to go to the White House the very next day. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that he threw out the first pitch at a St. Louis Cardinals game. I'm a Cincinnati Reds fan. I'm supposed to hate the Cardinals, and secretly I do. But I think it's really super cool that he got to throw out the first pitch at a Cardinals game, one of the best franchises in baseball history. It's just been such a crazy ride for you guys. Okay, moving on to the NFL draft. Whenever Ezekiel might go to the draft, who knows, right? But I think it's great whenever it happens that we went 50 straight years, Stacy, as you know, with a running back taken in the first round of the draft. Then we went 2 straight years, 2013 and 2014, without a running back taken in the first round of the draft. But then this year everything changed with Todd Gurley going 10th overall and Melvin Gordon going 15th overall. And Todd Gurley, had a torn ACL. This just bodes so well for Ezekiel. I mean, even if catastrophe happens and there is an injury, I think it still bodes well that he's going to be a first-round pick eventually, no matter what. That's just my opinion, but I think those guys going, 2 running backs going in the top 15, that in my opinion, Ezekiel is better than both of them. I mean, that bodes well for Ezekiel.
Well, I'll tell you, David, we haven't really had much conversation with Ezekiel about that, but to see 2 top running backs, one from the Big Ten, Melvin Gordon, go in the first round, after so many pundits had been saying that running backs were becoming irrelevant in the NFL, it was a joyful moment. I watched the draft. I followed the draft. I followed Gurley. I followed Melvin Gordon during their journey their journey to Chicago on draft day. I pretty much stayed glued at the NFL channel as much as I could, watching different programs on the draft, just trying to learn more about it and just see where these running backs were going to go. So I think that what we see is a resurgence, not resurgence, but we see the running backs becoming relevant once again in the NFL. And I can only be excited to see Ezekiel continue to grow under Coach Urban Meyer and become that great, as he calls his players, elite warriors, and to just continue to grind. That's the theme around the football team right now. We're grinding. Grinding is what got us to the national championship. And so I pray to God that Ezekiel continues to grind and his future looks bright.
Chatting with Stacy Elliott, a.k.a. Ambassador Elliott, here on Bucknuts Morning 5. I am Dave Biddle. Last couple of questions. We'll get you out of here, Mr. Elliott. Of all the questions about Ohio State, good stuff. Questions about the quarterback, questions about, are there enough balls to go around, questions about, who's going to play on the defensive line because they got so many good guys. There's no bad questions, but one of the things I think nobody's talking about is 4 starting offensive linemen back. Could there be anything better for a running back? And the one new starter is Chase Ferris, who's a 5th-year senior who looks like the Incredible Hulk after his off-season. Talk about that a little bit. Ezekiel, it's not like he's breaking in a new offensive line. He's got all these weapons around him at the skill position, but he's also got 4 offensive linemen coming back and some future NFL guys in there. Talk about that a little bit, sir.
I think our offensive line is the best offensive line unit in the country, being coached by the best offensive line / offensive coordinator in the country. Think this over, David. How many offensive coordinators also coach the offensive line. I don't know how many, but if I was a betting man, it wouldn't be many. So it may be a sign in even all of that. Coach Meyer and his staff trains these elite warriors to compete. Coach Meyer always says when you come around him, you're under evaluation. Everyone is under evaluation at all times, on and off the field. And Coach Meyer, he expects nothing but excellence. And so what we're looking at with this team, we're looking at 100-plus young men who have bought into a brotherhood of trust, and they don't want to let their brother down. And so the quarterback unit, the offensive unit, there are 9 units of the Ohio State football team. And, I mean, they're going to compete to the end, and they allow their desire to be brothers and to want to win as a team over their own personal achievements. And that's what's very interesting about this team.
I almost hate to ask you this because you have to be careful with what you say with the position that you're in. But then again, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the million-dollar question, the quarterback situation. What do you think's going to happen? Could we see a 2-quarterback system? Just anything you want to say about the question that every Buckeye fan is wondering about, Mr. Elliott, and that is what's going to happen at the quarterback situation?
Well, obviously, I don't know exactly, and I feel for Coach Meyer.
Yeah, no kidding.
Making this decision. I haven't talked to him about it, and to be honest, I wouldn't bring it up unless he brought it up, which probably he wouldn't. But one thing I will say that I know about Coach Urban Meyer is that he expects leadership out of his quarterback. Leadership by play, leadership by a vocal leader is something that he really likes in his quarterbacks. And so we have 3 great quarterbacks, and which one will emerge when we play Virginia Tech? I have no idea. But I'm going to be praying for Coach Meyer and the Ohio State Buckeyes on this one.
Yeah, no kidding about it. I think Cardale's going to be the starter when they trot out there. We'll see, but I think there's going to be more than one quarterback that plays in the opener. That's just my take. Last question before I get you out of here. There's another question I get. Zeke is one of the most grounded young men that I've been around, especially for somebody who has reached star status. Now as his star continues to grow, as his father, do you have to keep him grounded, or is he the type of kid you don't have to worry about that? Do you have to worry about keeping him from getting a big head after everything that he's accomplished, or is not even a concern with him?
Never have. Have not had to have a conversation with him about getting the big head. However, I will say Coach Urban Meyer does a great job at doing that, so maybe I don't have to talk to him about that.
I love it.
But what I see in Ezekiel is humility. I see a young man who, when he first came to Ohio State, didn't like to be recognized as a football player, didn't like the attention. Now I see a young man who is growing into his own and tries to be a statesman, I want to say, for Ohio State's football program. I've seen him sacrifice his time, especially for youth, for youth. He really, that's his passion. He's growing into his own, working with youth. And so he's been grounded, but he's still pretty grounded, but we're keeping our eyes on that guy. But I can tell you, Coach Urban Meyer, Coach Mickey Marotti, their staff, not only are they watching Ezekiel and other players on being grounded, but they're also making sure that complacency is not among this team. They do an excellent job at that. I've witnessed it firsthand.
And Zeke's got, I'll say it if you won't, Zeke's got a pair of excellent parents. Both you and your wife, Dawn, are not going to allow him to get a big head. But you are a credit to Buckeye Nation, my friend. He is Stacy Elliott, a.k.a. Ambassador Elliott. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I'm so happy for you and your family, everything that's happened. And thank you for making yet another appearance on our radio show, sir.
I'm deeply honored, and I want Buckeye Nation to stay tuned because E60 is doing a feature on Ezekiel. They traveled to New York with us. They were with us for 2 days in Columbus, on one day on the spring game, during the spring game, and then they just was in St. Louis with us. And the title of the E60's feature is The Rise of Ezekiel Elliott. So we're real excited.
How fantastic is that? The Rise of Ezekiel Elliott. Oh my goodness, that is great. And did they give you guys a specific date when that's going to air?
They said it will air before the season starts, but I'll keep everyone tuned in on that. Well, we're just deeply honored to be a part of Ohio State Buckeye Nation, and I'm very, very honored, as always, to be on this show, David. You have a great day, and as always, go Bucks.
You have a great day yourself, sir. Thanks again for your time. He is, of course, Stacy Elliott. And thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great day, a great Memorial Day weekend. Take it away, best damn band in the land.